is that 9-year-old girl whose funeral begins in 2 hours. A moving speech. I want to talk more about these defining moments that just don't just define a president, but define who we are as we respond. Joining me today, Roland Martin, author, commentator, and CNN political analyst. He comes to us via Skype from Silver Spring, Maryland. Pete Dominick, a good friend, Sirius XM radio host, and a CNN contributor, is in New York. Mark Thiessen is a Washington Post columnist, former speechwriter for President George W. Bush. He's in Washington. Karen Tumulty is a national political reporter for the Washington Post. Thank you to all of you for being with us. Mark, that clip that we just played of President Obama, I was obviously listening to the whole speech, but that's where it changed for me. So a couple of things happened here. One is that did not feel like a normal memorial service. It felt like something entirely different. And then I saw what you wrote today, and you talked about how it was two speeches, and I think you captured the essence of it. Describe to me, assuming that our viewers may not have seen all of that speech, and we'll play them parts of it, but assuming they haven't, describe to me what you mean when you say it was two speeches in one. You called it brilliant and then courageous, two separate speeches.
Yes. Absolutely. I think it was two separate speeches. The first half of the speech was a traditional memorial address, similar to the ones that that President Bush gave in the cathedral after 9/11, President Clinton gave in Oklahoma City. And I think what he did there was very important because the stories of these individuals had been lost in this shameful debate that emerged after the almost immediately after the attacks. And so he reclaimed the moment for them and shined a light on them and told us the stories of these individuals, the victims and also the heroes who saved lives and prevented it from being much worse. So I thought it was an incredibly important speech. And he could have stopped there, as President Clinton had before him and other presidents had, but he went on and essentially gave another speech about our political discourse. And I thought that speech was particularly courageous because he gave a direct rebuke to people who are largely his supporters, people on the left, who had been laying blame for this attack on Sarah Palin and on people on the right. And he said, told them to stop pointing fingers and we cannot know what caused this attack. And I thought that was a particularly courageous thing for the president to do in the wake of this tragedy.
All right, Mark, just so folks know, you don't make a habit of necessarily praising the president. So you feel that this wasn't about politics or about being a Democrat. You just listened to the words in an important time. Roland, what'd you take from it?
I think first and foremost, we are losing the essence of what last night was about. It was not about President Obama. It was about the people in that city and about this country. As I've watched all of these folks out here comment last night, frankly, I was embarrassed. It was soulless. They had no sense of compassion. The people in that room made it clear. Last night was a celebration of life, celebration of the 6 people who died, but also those 12 survivors. When the president talked about the petite woman who tackled the shooter and held him down, and she held her hand up and the crowd began to cheer. They were saying, look, we're going to celebrate life. We're going to celebrate freedom and democracy. And too many people, especially out of D.C., are trying to look at this speech through a political prism. It was really about life. And so I don't understand the criticism of people who were applauding and folks said it should have been more somber. No, I'm used to people who go to funerals, homegoing services, where they celebrate those who passed away and not always in a mournful state.
Yes,
so I applaud the reaction last night by those students.
And in your writing, you used the expression homegoing services, that celebration where the end of life is a celebration of something else. But let's talk about the D.C. folks for a second. I want to go to Karen. Karen, let me just play you something. Roland is critical of the fact that some of the discussion is too political. But the reality in this country is when there is gun violence and when there are massacres, a couple of things happen. We do talk about mental health, and we should. We do talk about gun laws, and we should. But in this particular case, it focused a beam on civility in politics, and the president picked up that mantle. Here's what he said about civility.
And if, as has been discussed in recent days, their death helps usher in more civility in our public discourse, let us remember it is not because a simple lack of civility caused this tragedy. It did not. But rather because only a more civil and honest public discourse can help us face up to the challenges of our nation in a way that would make them proud.
Karen, On the face of it, you can't criticize the words he used, but what about whether that politicized an event that was either a homegoing or a celebration of life or a memorial of death? Was that the right thing for the president to do at that point?
Hey, look, the fact is, whether the president is standing behind a pulpit, a podium, or a bullhorn, as we just saw in these clips, our system is such that whatever our political divisions, there is only one human being who is elected by this entire country to represent all of us, and that is the President of the United States. And that was really a message that only, I think, the president is in a position to deliver. And Barack Obama was walking a sort of narrow line here in that he had to try to heal and unify without blaming. And he had to essentially extend a hand without pointing a finger. And that was a narrow line to walk. And I think he succeeded in that last night.
Pete, Dominic, you didn't watch it from a perspective of whether there was politics involved or not. You, like Barack Obama, and by the way, I mean, a lot of people criticize him for not sort of showing the emotion that you might think he would show as a father of young girls while talking about the death of a young girl. But you were watching it as a parent. You were watching it as an American.
Every single parent that heard about this tragedy thought about their own kids. I thought about my two daughters. You think about your kids being shot for just a moment because you have to get the idea, you have to get the image out of your head. The president himself is in danger. His kids are in danger. He spoke about that as a parent. He spoke about, as a son, you know, not spending enough time perhaps with his grandmother. He spoke about it in every role. He spoke about it as a husband. And I will... You know, absolutely, it was, he really personified that young girl and symbolized what she meant and what she could mean. And I just want to build on Roland's point. There has been criticism of the atmosphere, that it was too much of a pep rally. Black folks know how to go celebrate death. I've been to a black funeral. It's a party, and that's how I would want my death to be celebrated, to have a party, to celebrate the good things. I don't want the organs. I don't want all the flowers. You can drink. You can prop me up with a thumbs up and celebrate my life. That is how a lot of people think life can be celebrated, and I liked that atmosphere last night, and I thought it was different and maybe untraditional to some people, but I thought it was unique and special, and I really appreciated it.
You all hold on there because we want to talk a little bit more about both that celebration and that memorial and the victims, but the reality of whether or not it inches us further as a country in our civil discourse. I want to play you a little bit more about what the president said. I then want to also hear from you. I've been collecting your comments on my blog, on Twitter, on Facebook. I'm still doing it. Keep responding. It's a great discussion. Stay with me. I'm coming right back. This is an important discussion, and I want you to be part of it.